Well, I was born in Denton, Texas, which is in northeast Texas, outside of the Dallas Metroplex area. Was raised up for a little while in a little town outside of Denton called Pilot Point, Texas. And then we subsequently moved to Bonham, Texas. And then when I was in my teens, we moved to Paris, then to Mount Pleasant, and then to our current home where we are at now in New Boston, Texas. I met my wife in 2008. We married late that year, and then we had two daughters. We lost one, and we have Emma Grace, who is now 11 years old and currently in the 6th grade. So my mom and dad also live in New Boston, Texas. We actually live on property with them. And so that's kind of where I grew up, and I've done a number of things. In my career, I have owned businesses, everything from signage and printing companies to payroll and tax preparation services and so forth, and bookkeeping for a number of businesses. I've done quite a bit that were my own businesses. I have worked in the hotel industry for several years. I have worked in food service, and I've worked in healthcare. Started out as far as in the public sector at hotels. I worked for Intercontinental Hotels Group, which is IHG, the parent company that owns Holiday Inn Express and some of those national brands that you're probably familiar with. Managed hotels, and then subsequently went into food service. I have served in a number of roles, everything from my very first job inside of a Kentucky Fried Chicken to becoming the regional vice president of operations for one of the largest franchise owners in the entire world that owned a number of quick service restaurants, or QSRs as we call those, in the Yum brand. Yum brand owns Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. I have also worked in healthcare, took on as chief people officer for one of the largest behavioral health systems in the entire country, and then became a director of operations within that organization. And then that led me actually to McCurtain Memorial Hospital in February of 2022. Well, I arrived here originally with the plan to become the hospital's Director of Human Resource. That was the position that I was actually hired for. At the time that I came on board here at the hospital was undergoing a number of challenges at the time, from a cultural standpoint, as well as with the hospital's administration at the time. I was made aware as I was coming in that the hospital was facing a number of allegations against the former administrator, and immediately was met with those challenges when I arrived here. And sort of had to take those on and weed through some of that. Unfortunately, within just a few days of arriving here, an additional incident had occurred here at the hospital that resulted in the former administrator's termination, as well as the hospital's chief nursing officer. And so the Board of Trustees was looking for a interim solution to having an administrator in place. And I was approached and asked, would I assume those responsibilities until the hospital could begin recruiting someone to fill that role. And so initially there was a nationwide search, I believe, to find a chief executive officer to take over at the hospital. And through a couple of things that sort of came to light, if you will, during that initial search. It sort of halted that, and the challenges that we were facing at the time resulted in really having to get focused on what it was going to take to get us out of hardship, and not so much in trying to find a chief executive officer to take over at the hospital. I think that we recognized that to be able to actually recruit or find someone with the challenges that we were facing was going to be significantly difficult. And I think also that my experience and my proven track record of being able to work well with people was certainly something that we needed at the time. And I think that was more of the focus, was not only facing the challenges that the hospital was about to face economically, but also being able to face the challenges culturally within the hospital, and stop the excessive turnover that was occurring. So outside of just simply the economical challenges that we were facing, and I'll talk a little bit about that. When I arrived here in February of 2022, we became aware shortly after I had assumed the interim role as the hospital's CEO that the hospital was going to face 50% reductions in our CMS payments to the hospital due to loans that were previously taken by the former administrators against future payments. So CMS controls or regulates Medicare and Medicaid from a federal level. And so loans were taken against payments that we would have been receiving anyway. And as a result, those payments was going to be reduced by 50%. So 50 cents on every dollar was going to be withheld by CMS in order to repay those loans that had been taken. This put us in a significant financial situation to where that at the time we saw absolutely no path by which we were going to be able to continue operations past June of that same year. So there was a bit of a reality there in that either we needed to take a hard look and determine whether there were any opportunities that we could make some financial changes and some financial decisions, or simply accept the fact that the hospital would close that year in June. With my, I guess my mindset and the way that I've always operated is when you tell me that there is no path forward, I sometimes do not concede to defeat, and made it a mission that I would do everything that I could in order to do everything that I could to save the hospital and to keep our doors open. So we went through a line-by-line process by which we evaluated every single dollar that was coming in and going out of this hospital. And one thing that I recognized immediately was the number of contracts that the hospital had entered into with individuals and with companies that were bleeding the hospital for millions of dollars every single year. And I recognized that there was absolutely no path by which we were going to be able to continue those contracts. That ranged from everything from nursing. The hospital's nursing staff here was made up in large part of contract nursing, and those nurses were here from all over the country, even other countries such as the Philippines and so forth. We recognized that there was a lot of physician contracts that was costing the hospital millions of dollars per year. There were contracts with a portion of our therapy department that was also coming at a significant cost to the hospital. And so we began to evaluate each and every one of those to determine what we could do to minimize the financial impact to the hospital and still provide good care and good services. So I began a negotiation process first with contract nursing, contacted the contract nursing companies and basically told them that we were in a position we could not continue the contract and negotiated our way out of those contracts. And within 60 days, I believe, maybe a little sooner than that, closer to 45, we didn't have a single contract nurse anywhere in the hospital. Also terminated the physician contracts and hired our own physicians and contracted directly with our own physicians, cutting out the middleman, if you will. And then we eliminated occupational therapy contracts and ultimately ended the anesthesia contract. And we hired and brought in our own people that were our own staff here at the hospital. Those savings alone resulted in a little over $4.5 million, I believe, in savings to the hospital that we were able to see the immediate result of from a financial standpoint. We also began hiring in order to cut down on the hospital's overtime and so forth that was rampant within the hospital. Per pay period, we were seeing as much as 600, 700, 800 hours of overtime at the hospital. And so we began to look at ways that we could increase wages to become more competitive with hospitals that were around us, and at the same time recruit and hire our own nurses. So we were very successful in being able to cut overhead expenses and be able to keep our doors open through today. No, ironically not. Still to this day, I'm not sure how we were able to do it, but no, we did not lay a single employee off in 2022 when the hospital was facing closure. We simply recognized early on that if the end result was going to be the closing of the hospital, the last thing that we wanted to do was start laying people off to the point that we could not even operate. And so we made financial decisions to ensure that we could make our payroll, but that we were also able to continue operations, and we were able to do that without laying a single employee off at that time. And so we were, again, able to pull us through the spring and summer and ultimately the fall and winter of 2022. And during that same time, we were also facing a financial audit with our auditors. We're required to undergo an auditing process every single year. And as a part of that auditing process, their job is to identify whether or not there is a going concern of whether you're going to be able to continue financial operations. They had notified us early on that we were facing a going concern, that we would not be able to sustain operations here at the hospital. But as a result of the financial cuts that we made and the strategic decisions that we made as a team, we were able to avoid that going concern finding. And so that set us in conjunction with all of the other things that we were doing, that set us on a path for success to get us through the year. And so we ultimately were able to avoid that. We did. In August of 2022, we met with the Board of County Commissioners and began discussing with them a path by which we could go to the voters for a 2% lodging tax in order to build a new hospital. And they agreed to put us on the ballot that same year in November of 2022. We campaigned as a hospital all over the county in a number of different ways, held town halls, took out billboards. I mean, we were even wearing t-shirts and had signs in yards asking for the community to support us in a 2% lodging tax that would allow us to build a brand new hospital. In November of 2022, voters went to the ballot, and over 65% of the voters in the county approved the 2% lodging tax to build a brand new hospital. In fact, it passed in all 30 precincts in the county. We were notified a short while later in January of 2023 that a lawsuit was going to be filed by some individuals in the town of Hochatown to challenge the 2% lodging tax and that ballot. We found out that the Board of County Commissioners were required under state law to publish that ballot in a local newspaper for consecutive weeks and that was not done. There's been a little bit of I guess the word is blame as to how that occurred. Had a county clerk that was going out, and the Board of County Commissioners said that she simply dropped the ball, by no means on purpose, but it was dropped, and it opened the door to litigation. That case was litigated pretty vigorously through the state district court level here in the county, and then ultimately to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. We were successful at all levels until it made it to the Oklahoma Supreme Court, which ultimately ruled that we did not comply strictly with Oklahoma state law, in that the ballot had to be published for 4 consecutive weeks. And so as a result, they found that the ballot was invalid. And so that could sort of set us back to square one with regards to so the construction of a new hospital or the rehabilitation of this existing facility has been a subject. It wasn't brand new to our administration. Many administrations before us had recognized that the infrastructure at the hospital was aging and was continuing to deteriorate. For many, many years, I will say that I don't believe that there was a good enough focus and a good enough attention on maintaining this property, this campus. And as a result, it declined more and more over the years. The previous administration had attempted, I believe, on 2, potentially 3 different attempts to pass different taxes to build a new hospital. And then, of course, we did in November of 2022. The community as a whole, I think, recognizes the need to either rehabilitate or build a new hospital. But I think there's been some differences in opinion over the years on how you get there and how you do it, and to what scale you do it. The previous administration wanted to build a 200-plus bed regional hospital, which I absolutely did not agree with from day one, still do not agree with. I don't believe that we would be able to recruit enough physicians, be able to recruit enough nurses and so forth to be able to run such a regional facility. And I've never agreed with the build it and they will come model. We were simply looking at building a 25-bed critical access hospital, which is what we currently occupy within this large building, and ER services and so forth, and be able to provide the same services we're providing now, but in a much smaller building. And I think voters agreed with us. Again, we received over 65% of the vote on that plan, and I think voters at large supported that. But no, we were ultimately not successful in getting that 2% lodging tax, and that sort of sent us back to square one on the challenges that we were facing with respect to this property. So I would say that the most significant challenges that we faced infrastructurally at the hospital here is the building was built in the 1970s, basically on swampland. It was built up in order to build the hospital on this property. And for many, many years from the beginning, this hospital has dealt with moisture that is coming up through the floor, on the ground floor. On top of that, the aging pipelines that are headed into the hospital for water has been a problem. Those pipes have continuously decayed. And then within the hospital, obviously the electrical, HVAC, and plumbing has suffered integrally within the building. And so again, not maintaining those things and not upgrading those things through the years has resulted in simply utilizing what was there in the very beginning. And it's no different than a car. After a period of time, after a lot of mileage on that vehicle's going to wear out, and you simply have to replace it. You can maintain the vehicle, do oil changes on it, rotate the tires and put good brakes on it and so forth, and take care of it. and you can buy a significantly larger amount of time out of it than you could if you never changed the oil. But the reality is at some point it will need replaced. And so that's where we have found ourselves, is that we either have to make a significant investment to get this hospital where it needs to be infrastructurally and operationally, or we need to build a new hospital. And so that is kind of what we're faced with now, and how we get there is still a little bit unknown. Yes, I did. I went to the Board of County Commissioners a couple of months back. I believe in the month of April is when we started on this, and started looking at ways forward that we could potentially move forward on financing and so forth, and funding to be able to rehabilitate this campus or build a new hospital. And originally we agreed that we could potentially look at a new 2% lodging tax vote and get it right this time. There was also some discussion about reallocating several $1 million that go to building tourism in the county that could go toward serving debt loan for a new hospital. We looked at the passage of a new sales tax. There was a number of things that we were looking at. And some of those avenues seemed hopeful. I've had a really good relationship with the Board of County Commissioners. Could not find a better group of folks to work with for paths forward for the hospital. I believe that they are committed to finding a path forward. So we bounced a number of ideas, came up with a plan that we would go back to the voters for a 2% lodging tax and look at reallocation of the tourism tax that is currently being collected. And through doing that, we recognized that there was going to be challenges that was going to prevent that as well. One, on the tourism tax, that is a 3% lodging tax that is being collected and has been since 2002 and became a permanent tax in 2012. After getting legal advice and so forth from our attorneys, we learned that if we did any changes to that 3% lodging tax that is currently being collected, that it could potentially place that lodging tax in jeopardy, that we would no longer be able to collect it at all, that there could be legal challenges made, that it was a new tax, and that by doing so it would not apply to certain incorporated areas. So we recognized pretty quickly that it was probably not the wisest move to tamper with that 3% lodging tax. On the 2% lodging tax that was still available to us, we recognized that we could go back to the voters on that and had a plan to do so. We're gearing up to begin a marketing campaign to do that, and then learned just a couple of weeks ago that was not going to be an option either. And the reason for that was the county had been notified that it was facing a large number of lawsuits. Well, I say a large number of lawsuits, a large dollar amount in judgments as a result of lawsuits that was filed against the county and the county jail trust. And so their counsel had advised them that they probably should not move forward with a 2% lodging tax to support the construction of a new hospital, that they should reserve that 2% in order to fund settlements that were coming in these lawsuits. And I do believe that the county has actually signed agreements to settle at least one of those lawsuits, potentially another to the tune of several $1 million. And they were going to need that 2% lodging tax. So once again, it moved us to a back burner and forced me and my team to reevaluate how we move forward. So we're used to those challenges and we're used to having to regroup and look for alternatives. And so that's what we're currently doing. I mean, I see I've seen the social media posts and so forth from different ones within the county. Look, you know, I'm gonna put it to you this way. So one thing that I have learned is that there are a few people within the county that are extremely loud, and our large support within this county is a whole lot more reserved in taking to social media and sometimes showing our intelligence, if that makes sense. I think that they have elected to show how intelligent they are by simply remaining quiet and supporting us in other ways. I remember so many times when I first came on, especially when derogatory comments were being made towards my nursing staff and physicians and the hospital as a whole, as things like the hospital nursing staff are terrible. The hospital is nothing more than a Band-Aid. You name it. I've seen it in social media. And early on, I felt a need I almost felt an obligation to defend my staff because I know who they are as healthcare professionals. I felt the need to defend them in social media, and even took backlash for doing that. I've took criticism for not being more public in the criticism that we've received, and I've taken criticism for defending. And so I've not always listened to guidance in that. Sometimes I've decided to go about it my own way. Not always the best way, because I feel like I want the truth to be heard. But yes, it is taxing. I would say that one of the biggest struggles in that is you're so limited in what you can defend. I'll give you an example. When I see a former employee that had been let go as a result of misconduct, and they take to social media and talk about how horrible the hospital is, talk about it, what a horrible place it is to work, and that sort of thing. You want to defend the decision, number one, to let them go because they were not a good fit at the hospital. They didn't carry the hospital's values, or they didn't share our vision for good quality health care. And culturally, they were just toxic. But you can't do that. They have rights. They have rights to privacy and so forth. And at the end of the day, it's simply not professional to get on and just air out all the dirty laundry. So you kind of have to take that in stride and just keep moving. But I would say this, our record speaks for itself since this administration has been in place. This hospital has had one of the lowest turnover rates ever. I can defend that wholeheartedly. We have given pay increases to every department and in virtually every employee in this hospital over the last 2.5, nearly 3 years. We are extremely competitive with our neighbors. We have done in my opinion, our directors and our managers that oversee these departments have done a tremendous job in reducing turnover, recruiting good quality staff, and retaining good quality staff. We have employees at this hospital that have been here 10, 20, 30, 40, and recently even 50 years. And so you don't get to build such a track record being a horrible company. Is there things that we would like to do that we simply can't due to financial constraints? Absolutely. Do we experience staff shortages? Absolutely. Do they have an impact on the overall culture in the hospital? Absolutely. But I do believe that this administration has worked diligently to focus on the things that matter the most, treating our employees with dignity and respect, hearing them out, giving them a voice, keeping them involved, communicating to them about administrative changes, making sure that we are competitive on wages and benefits, and making sure that they can't go up the road. Living in McCurtain County, drive 60 miles to go work somewhere else that pays better. So in those regards, I believe we've made significant stride. Do we have room for improvement? Absolutely, we do. But I have learned that we are never going to win the social media fight when these things are said. I'm not going to be able to jump on social media whenever I hear someone talk about how poor their care was in our emergency department when The record clearly reflects that the individual was here with a drug addiction, seeking pain medications, and lab work and blood tests and so forth confirmed that they were under the influence of methamphetamines and a number of other drugs when they arrived here, and that our physicians chose not to give them more narcotics. You're never going to be able to defend those things in the court of public opinion because they are just what they are. But does that mean that we never make mistakes, that we couldn't have been better in our care, or that we couldn't have done things different? Absolutely not. That'd be foolish to assume or to try to make that case. But I can tell you this hospital, this administration, our managers and our directors, they're committed to making the lives of our employees, our patients, and this community better. And I would argue with anyone, this hospital's in better shape now from those standpoints than it's been in many, many years. Has it seen better days? I don't know. I'm not in a position to argue that. But I will say this, I'm proud of what we have done. I am proud that we are not occupied by a bunch of out-of-town physicians that are looking for ways to continue to take advantage of this hospital. I am proud of the medical staff that we have built. I'm proud of our ER. I'm proud of our nursing unit. I'm proud of our therapy department, our lab, our radiology department, our nutritional services. I'm proud of our business office teams. You name it. Our housekeeping, they have an incredibly hard job, and they don't always get the credit. I realize that when people come into the building that they see that the building has aged. And folks have no idea how hard it is to keep a 50-year-old building. We've been providing healthcare for over 70 years. This building's over 55 years old. It's hard to keep that thing shining like a brand new glass. But we do the best that we can with the challenges that we have. And I'm proud of the work that they do. And I know that in large part, this community recognizes the job they do. If I had to answer that in one sentence, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. We're going to keep pushing forward every single day. We're going to continue to look for financing options. We're going to continue to look for ways to fund healthcare. We're going to continue to look for ways to rehabilitate this building or build a new hospital. But at the end of the day, we're going to keep on moving. My executive leadership team, my chief of operations, Lane Manganiel, and his team are working every single day to see to it that we're able to continue to get water and electricity and air conditioning and heat to our facility. They are steadily looking for opportunities to grow service lines, and we're not going to stop doing that.